Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm Steve Gwynn, your instructor. This is VESL for Career Pathways. Welcome. It's Tuesday, February 7th. So hope you're all doing well. And if you're not, I hope you're on the mend. On the mend means getting better. I should probably write that down and maybe I'll put that on chat. Have you guys heard that expression before? On the mend. It's kind of an idiom about health. So mend is a verb we use sometimes with sewing, like if you have a hole in your shirt or blouse and you need to sew it up or sew a button on, we call that mending. But this idiom is on the mend. It means getting better from an illness. So it's always good to know. All right, let's take a look at our agenda. It's on slide 2 here, if you're with us on Canvas. And so I did remember to record. We said hello, and we are going to go over to week 2 just to kind of begin, and then we'll come back to week 1 because we only had one day last week, and so we weren't able to finish this. And it's very important, so I want to come back to that. Before we begin, are there any questions or anything? You guys are okay?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Juliana.
I don't see the assignments in my Canvas. I see you are block. I don't know, is the correct word?
Okay, well, maybe let's begin there and take a look at assignments. So I'm going to go into student view. So this should be the same way that you see things. And I'm going to click on modules. And I'm going to scroll down because we've got, our resource page. And so our first week was about onboarding. And you can see that this student has completed everything. So that means that the student, for example, read the onboarding page and, jumped into the reading, opened up each section, and then clicked mark as done. And that's kind of a big concern. I have a feeling people aren't doing that. If you don't do that, you cannot progress. So make sure that you click mark as done as soon as you have finished reading and completing a page. So just jumping back here. And then you can take a look in the modules and see this is marked as done. So these are readings. These are pages that you're expected to look at. We went through some of these in class, but not all of them. We're going to come back to 1.3. But you can see the student read these pages, marked as done. And then the first assignment is here. There's a introduction to it with a video about how to write a paragraph if you need to kind of review that. And then here's the assignment. This is what you should see, Juliana. But if they're not marked off, like, let me just go back here and let's say, for example, I'll just jump in here and I'm going to uncheck these. So I'll uncheck it. And we'll take a look at it again. So if you don't mark a page off, these will not be in bold. They're faint. And so you can't progress. So the course is set up for you to go page by page, assignment by assignment, not jump around or anything like that. Does anybody have any questions about that? So you should see these assignments
No, thanks. I only don't see it, and I want to ask today for that.
Can you share your screen, Juliana?
Yes.
The other thing is sometimes you may have to open up something. Usually they're by default, they're all open, but I'm going to stop my share. And I think this will be instructive for all of us. If you also have questions, just jump in.
No, I already see it.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. All right, because that really was part of my lesson, was to talk about that. Okay, let me see where I was now. Okay, so a couple other things. Zoom has a feature for reactions, and so you should have a toolbar, and one of those things should say reactions. You might have to open up the 3 dots to see it. But if you click on reactions, you have the opportunities to like raise your hand, you know, clap, give a thumbs up, start crying, you know, and other things like that. You have reactions for yes and no, which we won't get into today, but in the future we will. So we want to practice just a little bit with those reaction buttons. Does everybody see how to get to the reaction button? Please react by clicking yes with the green check. Remember, you want to go to your toolbar and look for reactions. You may have to go to the 3 dots where it says more and then choose reactions. Risa, can you find it?
I'm still looking for it.
Excuse me. I'm going to mute myself. Okay, sorry. Important phone call from my wife. I have to answer. Okay, so Risa, we're still looking for your check mark.
For some reason I can't find it. It's home, right? And then
What you do is you want to find your toolbar where it says it should be a big green new share, and it's a chat, the same place as the chat button. But you have to open up that toolbar to going to the very far right side and clicking on the 3 dots and then clicking reactions. You have to scroll down below breakout rooms to reactions.
in the Zoom.
In Zoom, yeah.
Oh, I thought in the canvas.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we got a thumbs up, so you found reactions. Okay. All right. So good. So we're going to use this button a little bit today. And by the way, well, I'll mention that later. So let me go over to week 2. We'll go into our overview page, and I'm going to click on overview. And we've got some questions here. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you. Tatiana V, could you read this first question here, please?
Me, right?
Yes.
Have you ever experienced a barrier to communication in the workplace, at school, or in daily life?
Okay, so let's take a look at this word barrier. Remember, anytime you see little dots around it, you can hover your mouse over that and it comes up. So a barrier is an obstacle or situation that prevents you from communicating effectively. Okay, now sometimes we have barriers in the street when people are working, but this is the figurative meaning of barrier, and it's that obstacle that, you know, prevents good communication from taking place. Okay. All right. How about the second question? Lizun, could you read that for us, please?
Have you ever had a breakthrough in language or communication? How did that feel?
Okay. Okay, good. So breakthrough is the sudden jump in your abilities to comprehend and communicate better in English. So, you know, you've probably, because you're experienced language learners, you probably know it's not quite a easy step-by-step linear, you know, progress. Sometimes we go back, sometimes we go forward, but sometimes we take big jumps. Would you agree with that in language? Have you felt like you've taken a big jump at any period in your language learning?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Jump forward, not jump backward. Okay, so we kind of agree that breakthroughs are things that happen where suddenly you start, you know, communicating better and stuff. And so let me ask you a question. Let's go back to this first one, and we're going to practice raising our hand using the reactions. So I'm going to ask the question, and I'd like somebody to answer it. If so, just raise your hand if you think you have an answer. I'll give you a minute to think about it. And have you ever experienced a barrier to communication in the workplace, at school, or in daily life? How did you handle it? What did you learn from it? How could you have done better? Think about a barrier. Okay, I got a hand up from Juliana, and then we'll go to Risa, and then we'll go to Yukiko. Go ahead, Juliana.
I'm gonna try to explain. Well, yesterday I have a problem with my workplace. I changed the workplace. In the past, I was working with the schools, and right now I start with a SPAD. So I don't have all the vocabulary for this new job, and I have barrier for communicate all the things that I want to say.
Oh, okay. Now, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Where did you start working? What's your new job?
Okay. My new job is in an office.
Oh, it's in an office. Okay. All
In
right.
a spam. In a spam.
Okay. Yeah. So we're going to be talking about this. This is a good week for that. You chose the right class and the right week for your situation, Juliana. But the one good thing about new jobs and offices, the same language keeps coming up 90% of the time. So there's a learning curve at first, but if you make sure you ask questions, you clarify, and you remember not to make the same mistakes, the next day, those same things will come up again. And, you know, within a couple of weeks, you'll have that office, you'll be able to function much better. It's just the first, you know, days that can create barriers. You don't want to, don't feel bad or anything, but ask questions. You know, if you don't understand something, ask a question, because a lot of people, they just, you know, they're afraid to ask the questions. So they don't, you know, they don't follow the instructions correctly. And that's worse in the end, I think. All right, Risa, go ahead. Uh-oh.
You're on mute. Maybe she's not muted.
I-
Something wrong with your speaker, I guess. Oh no, we can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Risa.
Oh,
You might try if you know, unplugging and plugging back in with your speakers or your webcam, and you might try going off and coming back onto Zoom. Those two things. Let's go to Yukiko. Go ahead.
okay. So when I was in Japan, I worked as a physician in a hospital, and I had sometimes I had patients from China, and although we are all Asians, but they use totally different languages from us. So I had some kind of difficulty in communicating with them. So one day I noticed that they are using Chinese character as well. So from that day, I tried to write Chinese characters when I felt difficulty in communicating with them. And because Chinese, we have some common Chinese characters between them with them. So yeah, I wrote figurative Chinese characters, and that helped me to explain what's going on to them. Yeah, that's my experience.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't realize you could do that.
Yeah,
So
it's really
Yukiko, are you a doctor?
Oh yes, I'm a physician, but I'm not licensed
gosh.
in California. Oh, maybe you know that? No, you
No,
didn't
I
know?
didn't know that. Otherwise, I'd be calling you Dr. Yukiko.
Oh my God. No, you don't have to do.
Oh, okay. All right. I've got a little pain in my shoulder. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Okay,
Okay.
I will give you advice anytime.
Yeah. Take 2 aspirin and call me tomorrow.
No, I can prescribe.
No. Oh. Yeah, it just takes a week to come from Japan. Okay. All right. Let's get serious here. Lee Sun, go ahead.
Yes, I have experienced some difficult time in daily life. In my community, the people live here are very nice. They like to make small talk. So every time when I walk outside, they talk to me. And my English, the vocabulary, not that much. So sometimes I have difficulty to understand what they say. Every time I ask, sorry, can you please say it slowly, or can you explain it? I think it's kind of awkward. And also remembering their names is very difficult for me. So after that, I bought some small notebooks. Every time I meet someone, I write down what's their names and what did we talk about, what they look like. I write down all the informations, and when I back home, I review it. That helped me a lot.
Yeah, I feel like I need to do that in my neighborhood too.
Me too.
Yeah. And you might, you know, whenever you have a chance, you might take a conversation class, because they go into small talk a lot more. I know we did last week. So yeah, that's great. Probably also the times that you're successful, you remember somebody's name, and neighbors always talk about the same thing, you know, problem in the neighborhood, or their lemon tree, or, you know, the garden, the weather. And every time that you have a successful conversation, you know, be sure and go home and report it. Say, wow, I just talked to neighbor Bob and I understood what he said. So that's a really good example, Lee Sun. And if you apply the same technique that you do to your studies to small talk, I'm sure you'll be, you'll be well ahead of the game.
Yes, sure. I have to do that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anybody else need to jump in here and say anything?
Can you
Yeah,
hear me now?
Oh,
Risa? Oh, yeah, we can. Oh, good. Yeah, we forgot about you. Sorry. I have bad short-term memory. But I let you back into class. I didn't forget that. So, and we can hear you. So that's good. Tell us.
Okay, so I'm working as a project assistant. So every day is is okay, especially whenever I talk to Spanish speakers. So when we're assisting students, so it's kind of hard to relay messages to them, especially when they don't understand the English. And then I just started using my Google translations, and yet sometimes they still don't understand until I bought a book, a Spanish book from Barnes and Bubbles,
Noble, Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble, and then and it's really hard speaking with other languages like Spanish, Russian, from different countries, assisting students, because my specialty is Tagalog and Japanese. So yeah, especially
Not that many students in Tagalog.
and sometimes I miss some terms, work about work terms. So
Mhm,
I asked my APC about it, so I want
mhm.
any messages. So yeah,
And do you work with any Spanish speaking project assistants?
yes, I asked them to. I asked for help whenever I need it, but then if it's just me and other PA that doesn't speak Spanish, I just use my Google translations.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, years ago I was a APC before the pandemic, and so all the project assistants, we had a assessment room with maybe like 50 people and 30 in line, and it was like really hectic. And it was so funny because we had Russian, Arabic, Farsi, Spanish, Vietnamese speakers, and they learned all the phrases they needed to know in Spanish to be able to enroll the student. So there's a limited and I used to laugh when I go in there because here's somebody from Iran and she's speaking Spanish. It was a crack up. And then I was always trying to help. And they're really good with Google Translate. And I was like,
Oh, sorry.
I'm a little slow I'm pretty good with a computer, but slow with a phone. And I remember helping this elderly couple, and I just using Google Translate, and I go, oh my goodness, they don't understand me. I'm translating into Vietnamese perfectly. And then finally, the man said, we're from Cambodia. So I spent like 40 minutes thinking they were from, Vietnam. And so first thing is make sure you know what country they're from.
Especially students from Farsi, they don't have Google translations.
Well, we have a lot of Farsi aides now, so but maybe not at your site. So yeah, it's always fun. I mean,
Don't have in Chavez.
yeah. So okay, and let's move on to this last question. Have you ever had a breakthrough in language or communication, and how did that feel? And so again, by breakthrough, we mean it's this sudden jump in your abilities to comprehend and communicate better in English. And maybe a lot of the breakthroughs come through at the lower levels when, you finally do something basic, like, ask a question at the supermarket and understand the answer. But anybody want to raise their hand for answering that? Okay, Tanya?
Yes, I really remember the moment. I've noticed when I was reading Wikipedia article about something, and in the middle of the article, I realized that I was reading in English.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's
And I
cool.
was like, wow. I was just reading in English and I understood everything. And it was the moment I was really surprised and excited about. And usually I try to Google things in English and read
Mhm.
the explanation also in English. But at that time it was like just okay. I don't know. It just happened. I don't know how even.
Yeah, your brain just switched. That's great, because translating everything in your head is not good. And sometimes people realize breakthroughs when they start dreaming in English. And I don't know if anybody does that. I won't, you don't have to tell us your dreams, but that is one sign of, really good, is if you dream in English. Risa, you have a breakthrough?
Yes, when I got in Japan, I didn't really know how to speak any words. So when I finally know some vocabulary and some grammar, it really felt great, because finally I'll be able to, I will be, I will, I'm sorry.
I would be able to.
I would be able to find a job since I'm a foreigner there. So yeah, it really felt great. When I did the interview that well,
Mhm.
and I can even go to the grocery and can communicate with the share registers. Yeah.
Yeah. So there, I guess there are two ways you could say that. Finally, I was able to,
Yeah, I was able.
or if you want to make it into a conditional, finally, I would be able to, and that kind of implies that it gave you the ability to communicate in different areas. May I ask you a personal question?
Yes,
How old were you when you arrived in Japan?
I was 18 years old.
Oh, okay. So I'm just curious because, we have this learning, as you know, children learn the fastest, they get the language naturally. And but still, even in your teens, you can learn the language more fluently and faster, especially if you're immersed, probably like you were. So would you say your accent in Japanese is pretty good?
Not confident right anymore, because I don't have any practice right now. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Okay.
I can
And how many
practice with
years?
you.
One more question. How many years were you in Japan?
13 years.
That's a lot. That's enough to learn a language. Yeah.
I'd like to communicate with you in Japanese someday.
Oh, konnichiwa.
Yeah, we'll put
Konnichiwa.
you in a group together and you can take it offline. Yeah, you test her and then report back, Yukiko.
All right.
We want to find
Bring it
out.
on. Bring it on.
Yeah. Speaking of language, Yukiko, can I share what you said in your what you wrote in, I think, in the quiz last week? Because you used an expression, it's a really good expression. And you mind if I share it? I don't think it'd be embarrassing or anything.
Oh, it's okay.
In bad shape?
In bad shape. That's
Yeah,
not a
you
good.
probably haven't read my comments. So students, one of the ways we communicate in class is when you turn in some writing, I will take a look at it, give you feedback and comments, but it's really important that you read those, you know, so that, because I never know exactly if they're reading them, but that's where, you know, you can learn from your mistakes. But actually, Yukiko used a really good expression, which is in bad shape. I'm going to use some hospital language here now that we know Yukiko's a doctor. So yeah, bad shape in medical terms is really bad. Or if you're talking about your car, if the motor is in bad shape, you know, that's bad too. But in just generally, like, you know, if you're not feeling well, you probably wouldn't say in bad shape. Bad shape's pretty serious. But maybe you were out all night, you know, partying and drinking and you have a hangover. You may be in bad shape in that sense. But it's pretty serious. So most of the time we say, you know, if I feel ill or if I, you know, can't.
Yeah,
I
that
can't
was
be,
too serious.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I love that expression, bad shape. Okay. All right. Let me just jump back here to, and I want to roll through. I want to come back to, we're kind of hopping around, but last week we had our onboarding and we're still kind of continuing. And so I want to pick up, we only had one class, but I want to pick up on 1.3 right here about career pathways. So our goal this week is to, you know, enroll in our pathway, to choose our pathway. And I've left this here for you guys to read, but I just want to scroll through here and just point out one thing you want to know is how many modules are there. Some of the pathways, two of the pathways have 5 modules, VESL for small business and VESL for information worker. So just keep that in mind. We have a 9-week session. And so you're pretty much, you know, almost a module per week. You know, you want to set your goals. Sometimes people say, well, I don't know which one. If you're working, if you're in the workplace and you're not sure about something, I always tell people try project management, because everything in work, there's always projects. And this kind of gives you the language and the confidence to understand how people talk at work and take on projects and things. It's 2 modules, so it's very doable in our 9-week session. VESL for small business is a great pathway. I highly recommend it. It's 5 modules, but you know, if you know, many immigrants go into small businesses. So if you are so inclined, if you want to do that, I highly recommend that. And then some people like accounting. Some people are drawn to health careers. And then child development is a big one. Because this really prepares you to go into the child development program, which has pretty intense academic courses. And so everything you learn in here, from turning in assignments, from writing, from theory, from giving a presentation, this will equip you so that when you go into these classes, you won't be overwhelmed. You'll be able to handle it with native speakers. And then fashion and sewing, I don't have too many people in this module ever. So let me know if this one's for you, but it's a lot of good vocabulary. So many students know how to sew. They want to get into the sewing program, but they don't have the vocabulary to follow the teacher or to understand the instruction, or, you know, just all the little, I don't even know the fashion and sewing vocabulary. I'm not expert in that. So that's the first thing. The second thing, Tanya, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. Can I change after I enrolled, or can I maybe stay enrolled in 2, for example, and after I finish one or
Well, the best thing to do is you have access to all of them. So, but just do one at a time. If you change, just let me know. So I mean, usually when I grade your work, I'll know, but do let me know. But yeah, that's not a problem at all. Just don't wait till week 8 to change.
Okay, yeah.
But that's not a problem. And then there are the pathway goals, which I'll let you guys just read that. That's pretty simple. And then, but here's the tricky part. This is the link to enroll in your pathway. And so you have to click on this. I went through this last week, but I'll just go through it again. We can watch this little quick little video. You click on enroll your pathway. You go up to the right corner. It says enroll in course. You just click that. And now you're enrolled. You can go to the course or you can go back to the dashboard. So let's just take a look at this course now. I'm going to go back home and I'm going to leave. I'm going to go down here to the pathways. And so this is what the pathways look like. You know, if you're making a decision, you can take a look at them. But let's just jump into, let's go into small business. So all the pathways are in one shell. So we're now in a separate shell. And what I recommend that you do is at the very top, you know, you can just kind of close all these so it doesn't take up so much space, excuse me. And then we'll just open up VESL for small business. So there's always a welcome module. There's an overview to kind of tell you what you're learning. And then very importantly, there's a survey, a pre-survey. It's super important that you take this survey because at the end, when you finish up, you know, your 5 modules here, we have a post survey. And so those starting and finishing, those 2 things are really, really important. And here's the post survey right here. So, and as you can see, you know, you have to complete your work before you can go forward in the modules. But let's take a look. Let's go in here and we'll click on module 1. Excuse me a second here. Okay, I'm going to click next. And it gives you, you know, your objectives, what you'll be learning, your lesson tasks. So these are all things that are done in Canvas. But when you're ready to begin, okay, sorry about that. We leave Canvas, and then this takes us to Google Sites, and this is where we store these lessons right now. And one thing about this, it takes us right to module 1 and lesson 1. Now, take a look up into the right-hand corner, you'll see go to lessons. And if you open this up, all the lessons are right here. And so I'll open up module 1, you see the 5 lessons for module 1. So if you're coming back, that's like a different, you know, you and you don't want to go back to module 1, you go to module 2 right here. So you can select that. Now, before, we used to ask students to keep track with a little checklist, but the few students who used it really liked it, but the majority didn't, so we've gotten away from that. So these pages are meant to be read. There's always some questions that kind of make you think. There's professional language here. The objectives are spelled out. If you want a vocabulary log to keep track of things online, you can use this generic one. We use Quizlet just like we do in our class. So make sure that you open up and start with flashcards, go to learn, and then match, and then spell, and finally test, so that you really know the vocabulary. Now, anytime you see a big sign like this, it means that you have an assignment or a quiz in Canvas, and this is a link, so you just need to click it. But don't do this assignment until you have finished reading here. Okay, so and then we also have some interactive lessons here, and you'll see that there's slide 1 of 18. So this is pretty thorough, and you'll go in, you can click here to show the text, but I would try or hide it and listen first. When you listen, you have to kind of open this up, and then you can listen. Actually, that looks like a little mistake here because I can't see the top of that, which is the play button. I'm gonna have to bring this down a little bit. How about if I open it up in full, and then we see the play button. So if you get that problem, just expand it and then play the whole thing.
Opening up a laundromat
Can you
came
hear
during
that?
college when Shante
Right now,
received
yes.
a rejection letter from an employer citing a criminal. All Washed Up is a laundromat powered by entrepreneur Shante Holmes. The idea.
Okay. So I'm going to just close that expanded view, and then I'll come back here. So basically, you know, here after we finish the activity, it tells you exactly what to do. And then we can click here and it'll go to usually either an assignment or a quiz. So those are easy to follow. And then there's a next button on the bottom. There's usually a previous button on the top, but since this is lesson 1, there's no previous. And then you can always move around through here. At first, maybe it's a little confusing going back and forth, but merely you're just kind of, you know, you've got it up in a tab here, and you're going to go back and you'll be right here. Now, I want to show you something about the grades. So I'm going to click grades here. It's a little slow in this view. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to arrange your grades by module. I think the default is due date, but you want to change that to module and click apply. That way you'll see all the modules, but the problem is that at the top is going to be VESL for project management, which you're not doing. So you have to scroll down all the way to small business. And I apologize about that, but the way we have it set right now, we're working on this. So this is all going to be improved soon. Too late for you guys, but anyway, you need to scroll down and you'll see your grades here in SB. Okay, VESL for small business. So we use abbreviations like SB or VESL for SB. So they're all in here. So just a little bit of scrolling to find where you're working here. Okay. And let me just show you one more thing here. Actually, I'm going to go back home. So from the Career Pathways page, there's a link to our course homepage. And it's right here. Let me just change this view. And okay. So if we want to change, or excuse me, look at our grades in the Career Pathways, the same thing, you want to change this to module rather than due date, and then click apply to make the change apply. And then you'll see your all your assignments. And I think we talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but so you can see this student got 50 out of 50 for 1.6 writing, and then the quiz 50 out of 50, but the student has not completed the quiz or anything from this week because we just started this week. So one of the things you want to do is definitely, be looking at your scores. Lee-Soon, you have your hand up, or is that from before?
Yes, I have some problem about the choose pathway. Like I chose the child development. That means except I do the pathway career homework, I also have to do the child development module. Is that correct?
Yes. You want to, let's just go through there. Let's take a look at it. So, all right. So you've signed up for your pathway. You click on pathways. And you click on child development. So you come down here, you want to make sure you go through the welcome page, make sure you take the pre-survey and then mark that as done. And let's just say we've already, done the welcome page. And so this is our link to child development. And here's a link to module 1. And don't forget, Lee-Soon, you can also come over here. You can see these, but you want to make sure that you do this lesson before you do any of the quizzes. I love this baby here. It's like the fattest baby I've ever seen.
So what's the purpose of doing the homework? Because since I've already attending the classes in child development.
Well, the purpose is to prepare you for those classes. So if you're already in child development, it also gives you, I don't know if it's a great idea then, but people all the time are in project management, but they take project management because they need more English. So this is going to help you with your English more so than like the theory. It's going to help you with vocabulary and writing and all kinds of academic, listening comprehension. So if you need those things to improve, this will help you.
Oh, now I got it. Thank you.
Okay. It's not going to hurt you.
Okay.
And everything in here is going to help you be a better student in the other class too. And it's going to help your overall English also.
Okay.
It'll build your confidence, because a lot of the students, especially in project management, they were intimidated to be in the class with native speakers and groups having projects. And when they went through the project management modules in this class, they built their confidence up. And when they did their projects and especially their presentations, they were like better than the the native speaker students sometimes. I heard another question out there.
And there's also time limit to the modules, right?
There are no due dates or deadlines.
Oh, okay, I got it. Thank you.
So yeah, you have to manage your own time, and we're going to talk about that next week, because that's a big thing. It's that part of the class is self-paced, so people, work at their own pace.
I also have the question.
Go ahead, Igor.
I would like to change my career pathway module from business to project management.
Yeah, no problem. So
maybe
Go
I
ahead.
can share my screen and do it like online, and you will help me with it, or
I'll show you.
the-
I'll show you
Okay.
from my screen.
Okay, sure.
All right, because I want to show everybody. So I'm going to go back to home and the home page. So what I did was I did move the one lesson on select your pathway. I moved it from week 1 because not everybody had selected their pathway yet. So the way this works is you click on here. We do want to get this done by February 14th. So I put a deadline on there. And just like in Igor's case, go ahead and fill this out again, put your first name, and then just click, like you said, project management. You don't have to put any notes on that, just so I see it, and then submit that. Yukiko?
Yes, I have one question. Can I ask?
Yes.
I tried to open the modules, at the pathway of health carriers, but I guess almost all the pictures are not available. Can I share the screen to show you?
Okay, let me stop my share.
Like this one. And I checked other pathway, and in other pathway, the images are available. But in health carriers, yeah.
All right, we'll fix that.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Sorry.
Bless you.
Good. So you're just saying on that Canvas page right there that you can't see them. Okay. All right, let me get back to my screen share. And we're gonna, okay, so this is in week 2. And actually, let me go home and just see if I'm keeping to my agenda, because we kind of jump around. Okay, so we talked about grades. We talked about, well, let me go over one more time module check marks, because the overall theme is checking your progress. You know where you are all the time. And so we looked at grades, and if you've taken, other Canvas courses, you probably know this, but I can tell that not everybody is following this, so I want to take a look. So here we are in week 1, and you can see I unchecked this to demonstrate to Juliana, but this student has checked off everything, has completed everything for this module. I'm just going to go back in here and recheck this. So at the bottom, be sure and click mark as done, because this is how I know where you are in the course. And then this is where you know where you are in the course and that you have, completed everything. And then if I open up week 2, this student has completed the first 2 pages. They've read the overview, and they've gone into barriers and breakthroughs in workplace communication, but not the quiz yet. That's coming up. So please make sure you do that. And you can always see, they're usually indicated right here what they want you to do. So one choice is marked as done, but if it's an assignment, it'll be submit. And if it's a quiz, you need to score at least 40 points out of 50. Usually you can take the quiz again. We'll get more into that later. Sometimes the quizzes are timed. If they are, they will tell you so that you know. And then there's just the completion where you want to make sure that this page is just kind of saying I did everything. Does that make sense, everybody? Checking pages off. Okay. So let me get out of this view. All right, any questions related to the course or the pathways right now? You guys are feeling good? All right, let's jump into
Excuse me.
just
Hi, this is Amrita. I still have a question about the pathways. When I log in, I'm not able to access it.
yeah, so I demonstrated that. Let me just do it again really quickly because it's so easy. The first time you're not going to be able to access it through here. You have to enroll first. So where you enroll is in week 1, 1.3, the about career pathways. And it says enroll in your pathway. You click on that. There's a video that shows you exactly how to do it.
Okay.
And it's just, you'll see it's very fast. You click enroll in the link, you go up here, enroll in course in the right-hand corner, and boom, you're done. So
Okay, thank you.
You can find link below the video.
yeah, it's below the video. It's right here. I'm sorry, that's good. So you see it at the bottom here, Amrita?
Yeah.
It's right here. Thanks, Igor.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So this week, we'll just take a look. So we are going to get into writing a professional email. We'll talk about this on Thursday more. I want to come back here to the barriers and breakthroughs in workplace communication. And we've got some vocabulary that I just want to make sure everybody knows. I'm going to click on options and I'm going to change from term to definition. Here's the audio, if you can turn on and off. There's some other options, but we'll just keep that. I'm going to click start over. And so we've got some words here and I'll just pronounce them for you. Feel free to, pronounce after me. Assimilate, assimilate. This is a verb and it means to absorb fully, to adopt as one's own, to adapt fully. So in the example that Risa gave us today about, moving to Japan when she was 18, she had to assimilate to the language and culture of another country, which she did over the next 13 years.
It's a synonym of adapt at some point.
It is, but not when you assimilate, you do adapt, but it means to assimilate culturally and linguistically, whereas adapt, maybe you adapt to the cold weather or, so adapt has many more features in it. And assimilation is related just to culture and language.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So for example, like if you're in the workplace and they say, okay, we have some new software, you're going to need to adapt to it a little bit. Well, you're gonna have to learn it first and then it'll be easier. And so you adapt to the software, but you're not assimilating to the software. So assimilate is just with culture and language usually. All right. We talked about barrier, and that's something that blocks the way, and obstacle. And we could generate a bunch of examples of barriers. Maybe sometime later we'll do that. But somebody mentioned a new job. So new job, there's new questions, new things to learn, and there could be new barriers. And then we have this word breakdown. And this is a noun form. It's a compound noun. We take break and down. We put it together, and when it's related to language, we call it a failure to communicate, a language breakdown. And then, of course, we've got breakthrough. Again, this is a compound noun that we make. So when we do use it as a verb, it's a two-word verb, but as a compound noun, we put it together. And so a breakthrough is this sudden advance in ability. Like when Tanya was suddenly, she had forgotten, she was just reading in English so fluently that she didn't realize it at first. Integrate is to bring together and make whole. So we might have to integrate two things into one, and that's what we're calling, you know, sometimes with new software, they have an integration where they have to bring it in and make it work with the existing software. Then, of course, slang. We all know slang. I put a couple slang things in chat today. In bad shape, we're talking about somebody in very critical condition, on the mend, getting better from an illness. So slang is usually somebody needs to explain it. It's a type of language. They could be words and phrases. They're very informal and they're very common. We use them in speech more than writing, and sometimes they're restricted to a particular context or group of people. So young people have their own slang. Old people have their old slang. Old people's slang is the slang that they learned when they were young. But anyway, it's a part of the language, so we have to learn some of it. But then there's this word nuance. And does anybody know nuance?
Yeah, but I don't know how to explain something that you want to mention.
It's a very, very slight or subtle degree of difference. So a nuance could be, you know, say you're almost like adding a spice to a dish that gives us just a subtle change. A nuance could be a subtle, it could be something in the accent that you have, or the way you're speaking that we understand that maybe you don't feel well, or you're, you know, maybe you're sad or something. There's a nuance in there. So it's a very, very slight or subtle degree of difference. And we'll see when we take a look at the case studies, how they use the word in context. And then counterpart is just someone or something that has the same job or purpose as another person. So, you know, you take another class and you get another teacher, those are my counterparts. And, you know, it's not the same as like colleague or anything. It just means somebody who's doing the same job as I'm doing. Does that make sense between colleague and counterpart? Colleagues are all the people who work with me. but the counterpart would be the person who does the same job as me.
Oh, like partner, like, okay, the same job, it's understandable.
Yeah,
yes.
so Igor, you are a project assistant, and so is Risa. So, you know, she's your counterpart.
She's my counterpart.
Mhm. If you work in the same place doing the same thing. So I don't know, maybe you guys work at different sites, I forget. But let's say you work at the same site in the assessment room, and but maybe different hours. And so somebody comes in, they say, "Where's Igor?" And Risa says, "Oh, he's not here right now."
My counterpart probably eating right now, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But I can help you, you know, she's my counterpart, but I can enroll you. Okay. And again, we're going to see the language in context, so we'll have a better idea. And then monopolize this is a verb. You may know monopoly, which is it's a game, but it's also means a business where there's no competitors. And monopolize is to use or take so much time from others. So for example, if one student in class, you know, asks questions the entire time, they monopolize the teacher's time. I mean, don't worry about asking questions because I want you to, but I'm just saying that could be an example. And then unrealistic standards. So we see real, and then you may know realist or realistic, which is the adjective form, which means that it's something. So we looked at the modules. Some of them have 5 modules, some have 4, some have 2. They're all realistic for completing in 9 weeks. But if we had a module that had 20, or, you know, if we had a pathway that had 20 module, that would be an unrealistic standard. So when goals are seen as unreasonably difficult. And then we have this term jargon. And jargon is the special words or expressions that are used by a particular profession or group and are difficult for others to understand. So Juliana is working in a new job. She needs to learn the jargon of that office space. The project assistants, you know, have their own jargon. I forget what it is, but, you know, it refers to, you know, all the little codes and access numbers that, you know, and especially if they use abbreviations, that's, you know, like we used to have, they call it a CRN, you know, just, I don't know, teaching has many jargon.
It's like computer scientists use omega sign to present time complexity.
They have so many, you know, different little things, you know, for coding and all that kind of jargon. The police have their own jargon. The military has all kinds of jargon. So it's used in every profession. Doctors have their own jargon. And then we have this expression, half the battle. And that means the rest is easy. So, you know, maybe getting into class and getting through the first 2 weeks is half the battle, because it's hard to get into the class sometimes to figure out how to get enrolled, go through the process. And then you have to learn, you know, how does the course work? What do I need to do? And once you learn all that stuff and get in, the rest is almost easy. You know, it's just like showing up, doing the work. So whenever we say half the battle, it means that you've done something and the rest is going to be easier. Have you heard this expression before?
No.
So in my household, you know, my wife does the shopping usually, and sometimes I do the cooking. And so she thinks the shopping is half the battle, and I think the cooking is, you know, everything. So
It's the battle full, yeah.
you know, so
True.
she says, "Oh, that's half the battle is getting all the ingredients," you know, and but that's an example of how it goes on. And then we've got this expression, dwell on. You may know dwell from dwelling, which is a place where people live, like a house. But dwell on means to think too much about something. So what do we dwell on? Usually negative things, problems, challenges, our future, things like that. I suppose you could dwell on positive things, but it means thinking too much about something. So it's really, it really is sort of a negative thing. You know, that's why they have meditation, right? So your brain stops with its thoughts, and you know, and you can not dwell on anything except maybe your breathing. Are you familiar with this expression, dwell on, 2-word? Okay.
No, it means like stop on something, yeah?
Yeah, you're stuck thinking about a problem, you know, over and over. It's the kind of stuff you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and start thinking about. You don't want to dwell on those things too much. And then we have the expression on top of, which is meaning dealing appropriately with a situation. So when you're on top of it, means you've got everything, you know, you've done all your assignments. I checked this morning, many of the students have completed week 1, so they're on top of the course, they're doing everything, they've checked everything off, so they're on top of it. Okay, so this language, and I'm just going to open these tabs and show you what we'll be going through this week, or what your job is to. This is a reading, and again, like Juliana, we told her in the beginning, you know, every workplace has its own language. It's got its own jargon, and so it's just something that you learn as you go. You know, by asking questions, by listening to what other people are saying. It's workplaces have their own culture in a way. And as you go, you understand how this workplace works. And it's half the battle. It's going to help you to communicate better. So just learning that, learning from mistakes. Every question you are asked, well, it's going to come up again. So the faster you learn how to answer, the more proficient you'll become. So just learn from the workplace how people answer things. And then these are some of the skills, some of the language that we'll go through, that I want you to go through before Thursday. And then finally, there's a case study here. And a case study means that it's something that happened in the workplace. And so we've got 3 case studies. We'll talk about these on Thursday, but if you could read them before then. The first one's called Bumpy Flight. The other one's called Keeping Quiet. And the last one's called Email. Okay, and we'll come back to these on Thursday. So let's just jump into here and let's run through this together. Tanya, could you read number 1 for us? You're muted.
Yes, listening. This skill includes not just what you hear at meetings or following instructions, but also listening to what people are saying to each other.
Keep going.
Oh, okay. I see. What questions do people ask? Customers, employees, management, how are these questions answered?
So, getting back to Juliana on a new job, a lot of it is listening to the way other people talk, kind of finding, and maybe, we used to use these words like an informant, finding one person who can really help you, that maybe you have a connection with, who wants to help you, who's helpful, and finding an informant so that you can just listen and ask that person questions, listen to how things go at meetings, write down things like Lisun was writing down with her neighbors. All this stuff is important, but listening is the key. Tatiana, could you read number 2, please?
Yes, speaking. Know the language of your tasks and duties. Find a person you can talk to and ask questions. Understand and register of formal and informal conversations.
Okay. So does anybody know what we mean by the register of formal and informal conversations?
Keeping in mind, or like what's happening, recording everything in your brain or something.
Able to differ formal and informal.
Right. So the register means that you speak one way in a formal conversation, and you change the register to informal if you're talking to a friend. So if you're in a job interview, you are going to have more of a formal register. And if you're in the break room with, another employee, it's going to be more informal. But that's what we mean by register, is just, the way you talk. So you have, if it's Yukiko and Tanya talking together, they're friends, it's informal. If it's maybe talking to the instructor, you might want to be a little bit formal. But it's okay if you say, "Hey, Steve, what's up, man?" That's okay too. All right. Let me see. Amrita, could you read number 3 for us, please?
Summarizing or paraphrasing to repeat back what you think you understood, especially with instructions. Are you saying that you want to take that option off the table? Or ask directly, could you clarify that? I'm not sure what you want.
Okay, so as advanced learners, you guys are probably pretty good at clarification. Here's another idiom: take that option off the table. And that means remove something from consideration. It's not physically taking something off the table. It means an idea. We're not going to do this, and so we're taking it off the table. Do you guys know that expression, off the table? Is it have the same expression in your language?
Yeah.
Okay, we're not talking about food, taking the plate away. We mean that we're taking an option, we're not going to consider it. Okay, and number 4, Risa, could you read that, please? Uh-oh, we lost your audio again. Okay, can I get a volunteer to read number 4?
I can read them.
Okay.
Communication comes to us in many forms in the workplace. Read your email carefully. Save important items. Follow instructions and or ask for the clarification.
Okay, yeah. So reading email very, very carefully is super important. And that's true for native speakers too. Sometimes they just look at the subject line, they don't read the whole thing. So it's very important.
I have one question.
Yes, go ahead,
Like,
Amrita.
yeah, whenever we talk to people here, I see that people are not very direct. Like, suppose they want to say something, so it's when I came here, it was very difficult for me to understand what they really want to say. That whether I should do this work or I should not do this work. So,
Really?
understanding the meaning behind what they are talking, it's not very I'm from India, so we talk very directly. Okay, this is your job, you do it. This is my job, I'm going to do it, and there is no hidden meaning. Uh,
Do you
and
guys,
sometimes,
what do you guys think? Do you find Americans less direct than other places?
Because they don't want the responsibility for your actions. That's why they don't say. I've noticed this because you cannot ask to clarify something or give advice or something because most of the time people will go.
yeah, because
won't
then I
take the
have to,
responsibility.
yeah, I generally clarify. So you mean this? So you want me to do this? And otherwise, like it's like we have a dish in India like jalebi. It's like round and round and round, and then I don't know what's going on in that.
I, Tanya, we've had this discussion before, right?
Not sure, maybe.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm just experiencing deja vu because I feel like we had this conversation at one point. It's Americans are usually pretty direct, especially in emails.
Yeah.
More so than other cultures.
So what I observed when I get the email, that is very direct in there, but when they talk, that talking is different than the email.
Oh,
Yeah.
for
So
example, can
Yeah.
I show me the examples?
Oh, okay. Yeah, Yukiko.
No. And can you tell us the examples?
You're asking to
I
me?
think when they give instructions, like in some places, I mean, this is what I'm trying to guess the answer here, but in the US, people are pretty respectful and they don't order you around. Just they say, please, could you do this and do that. Whereas in some place, some cultures, it's much more direct. They say, pick that up, do this, take out, whatever it is. It's like really fast. And if you said that to an American worker, they'd be a little bit offended. And so it could be that the way instructions are given are kind of more, I don't know, just like you say, less direct and just letting the worker know. It really depends on all kinds of situations, because sometimes, if you're operating, the doctor says scalpel, he's not going to say, oh, by the way, when you get a chance, Yukiko, could you hand me that scalpel, please? They need it, boom, right in their hand, they've got it. But that's an interesting observation. Anybody want to add to that?
Yeah, I think it is difficult. Like first 1 or 2 years were difficult for me to understand, like what I'm supposed to do, like whether I'm taking it, understanding it right. So I have to clarify again. But once you get accustomed to their language, like if they're trying to say this, it means this. So suppose
Well,
I don't know. Suppose they okay. Do you like to come? It means they may not be interested that you come and join, or maybe you can take your. So something like that, like in a not in the like in scientific way what we are working, but in general, like do you want to join me in lunch? It always doesn't mean that you have to join.
oh,
Means
good example. Yeah.
yeah.
So if somebody like an American says, you run into them on the street and say, oh yeah, I'm Rita, I haven't seen you in a long time. Yeah, we need to have lunch, or let's get some coffee. If you say, okay, when? Tomorrow? They're going to say, oh, no, not tomorrow. So it's funny because I'm actually going through that with somebody I used to work with, she keeps saying, oh yeah, let's get coffee. I go, okay, well, how about Monday? I don't hear anything. And then
Yeah.
Tuesday she says, oh, let's get coffee today. I said, no, I'm busy on Tuesday. I told you. She said, oh, okay. So yeah, in that sense, but getting back to the culture, somewhere up here, it said, you know, the culture of, maybe it's one of the definitions, the culture of each workplace. You may have a supervisor who's super direct, or maybe they're not, maybe that's not their specialty. And so you have to kind of figure out what they really want. But yeah, it's figuring out the culture, because we're a country of immigrants, so it's really hard to say one American culture is like this, because everybody's different a little bit. But I do notice that some cultures are very, very direct in the way they treat people, and we would probably find that rude saying that. It's just like when you walk into a store, they're pretty nice. You know, the students always say to me, gosh, the people are so nice in the grocery store. And the people who are buying things, the customers are nice too. But you go to other countries and they treat the people in the store just like terribly. They just say, give me that. That's too expensive. What's wrong with that? You know, so that day-to-day back and forth among strangers in the US is usually kind of polite most of the time, unless you're driving. Okay. So again, super important, new on the job for you, Liana, observing. You know, you really, really have to notice the patterns of the workplace, how they behave, the social cues. And that's kind of too what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Social cue is just, you know, does she really want to have coffee, or is she just saying that? And then, you know, paying attention to the body language, and body language can be different too. You know, in some cultures, they smile when they're, you know, getting ready to hit you. So you have to kind of learn that a little bit. And then the important thing is, when we say reward yourself, don't go out and buy a latte or an ice cream cone. We're just say, you know, you feel like, yeah, I got that. You know, that's what we mean by celebrating small victories. And don't dwell on any failures. So here's dwell on in context. Dwelling on the failure is you go home and you're like, I didn't understand anything today. Oh, you know, you got to keep going. You get up in the morning, you say, I can do this. Yeah. And be excited about it. Okay. So, if you guys can go through this for Thursday, and then especially with the case studies, we're going to come back to this. They're pretty interesting, I think. But please read these so we don't have to take up class time to do that. Any last questions for I send you guys home?
So today's homework is laid through the 2.1.
Yeah, let's just take a look at it to make sure. Okay, so number one thing is, if you haven't finished anything in week 1, do it. If you haven't taken the survey, do it. But this week, please read the overview again, go through all the tabs on breakthroughs and barriers in the workplace communication. When you're ready, take the quiz, but don't jump to the quiz or take it before you're ready, because you know, if the quizzes you can take it twice, but it's the average. So if you take it and get 10 points and then, oh, I'll figure out the answers. Well, the next time you take it, you may get, you know, 30, but your average is not going to, you know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So you're penalized if you just take quizzes without studying and get a really low score. So don't ever take a quiz without, you know, having studied, because you may not get average 30 if you get a really low score the first time. Yeah, so through 2.2. And then Thursday we'll talk about professional emails, which is super important. Okay, all right. Well, I'll see you guys Thursday. Oh, and don't forget, we are having an optional class Wednesday at 5:30. You're all invited. You don't have to come, but if you have a question or you're having trouble with anything, come on over and we'll spend more time, working with the students, and hopefully we'll have a little group there. Okay. All right. Well, have a great day, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed your stories about breakthroughs. That was great, especially Tanya's. And I found out Yukiko's a doctor.
You finally
And,
know you.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me, but for some reason I knew it was the health field, but I didn't know there was.
Oh, that was a good guess.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll see you guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Any questions, go through Pronto.
Okay. Goodbye.
Have a great